there, brilliant people. So today I want to talk to you about 10 ways to be alone without being lonely. And I want to talk to you about this because being alone can be very important for us to develop our intuition, because sometimes when we're around other people, it's too easy for us to fall back into our codependencies and for us to get lost in those things that really help us kind of focus on other people but not focus on our own needs and who we really are and the things that help us foster our intuition. So by being able to spend some time alone, really listening to ourselves rather than, starting to sort of want to go and find other people because we're starting to feel lonely, that can be a really helpful thing. Right, so what are these 10 ways? Well, the first way is to actually, might sound a bit strange, but to set a time limit. Like if you're going to go and spend a weekend away, with yourself, at some cabin somewhere, that's a really lovely thing to do. But because it's a set time limit, it's not as if you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. You're just going to be alone for this weekend. So sometimes by setting a time limit, that can really enable you to really enjoy the time that you have without worrying about that you're going to end up lonely. So that's number one. The number two is to kind of, be alone as a human, but not really quite alone. And obviously one of the easiest ways to do this is to be in nature, because in nature there are obviously, birds and trees and wildlife. So there are other presences, but they're not the kind of presences that we tend to lose ourselves in. They're the kind of presences that actually help us find ourselves more. So we can be alone as a human, but not lonely because we have other presences there. So the second way is to obviously spend time in nature. So the third way is to actually dedicate your alone time to feeding your own soul. So that means that your alone time is the time in which you focus on finding those things that are your belonging, like the people possibly, or the things in life that really support you to be you. Because one of the reasons why being alone can be really powerful is because, of course, in that space we are very much supported to be who we really are, to be, to not really be focused on other people's expectations, but just being who we really are. Now, if we can find our own place of belonging, we can actually have that and be with other people. We just need to find our place of belonging, or, the people who will support us to be who we really are. And by spending time alone, focused on really getting clear on how that would feel like, to be supported to be who we really are, it makes it easier for us to recognize that when we do go back out into the world, and therefore it makes it easier for us to find it. So the fourth way to be alone but not lonely is to follow your passion. So when you're following your passion, life becomes like a soul adventure. Like life becomes so joyous and happy and rich. It's like your life is full. It's just that it's full of the things that feed you rather than full of other people. So by following your passion, you can be alone and not lonely. So the fifth way that you can be alone but not lonely is to practice something called flow state. Now, I will be talking about this more in a later video, so watch out for that one. Subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it. Hit the notification bell. So being in flow state, it just means that you're in that co-creative flow, and again, that is one of those states that is, it is so full of richness and inspiration and positivity. There's kind of like no room left for you to feel lonely. So practice flow state. So then the sixth way to be alone but not lonely is to practice appreciation. This is obviously a good thing to do regardless of where we are, but whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, if we can practice flowing appreciation to the things that support us, rather than worrying about the things that don't support us, or aren't working for us. So if we're flowing appreciation to those moments that are feeding us when we're alone, rather than worrying about the fact that there isn't somebody else there, that enables us to be in this alone state and appreciative of it, which means that we don't tend to feel lonely. So then, number seventh way of how to be alone without being lonely is to play. Now, why is this important? Well, it's particularly important for some of us who perhaps had to grow up a bit faster than ideal, or perhaps, we had parents who thought that being, playing as a child was being too frivolous and we needed to get on with serious stuff. Play actually has a very important function. It enables you to dabble in all sorts of things. It enables you to take up painting and only do it for a month or two and then abandon it. It enables you to try out sewing or cooking or archery or abseiling. I'm trying to think of other things I've done. You can actually just play at all of these different things. But you're just doing it because it's play. You're giving yourself permission to take it frivolously. In other words, not seriously. But it is doing something very important. It is allowing you, with no, very, very low risks or stakes, it's allowing you to explore these different things and therefore hopefully find some of the things that really serve you, some of the things that really help you be more you. When you're alone, go and play, go and be silly, go and try out some silly things that, you've always wondered if it was something that you might like. Give it a go, because it doesn't matter if you abandon it. There's no one else there to see you doing it, and you're having fun, and when you're having fun, you're not feeling lonely. And you might learn something that you'll be able to then really carry on into the rest of your life. So that's really cool. So that's the next thing, is play. So then the eighth way to actually be alone without being lonely is to nurture yourself. In other words, sometimes, when we are busy meeting demands and other people's expectations, it's very hard for us sometimes to take the time to just sit, stand, walk, jog, whatever it is, but give yourself the things that are really nurturing for you. Allow yourself to do things, do your things in your own way, which is basically what nurturing is. So, if you want to take up running, nurture yourself through it. So don't try and flog yourself into going running. Allow yourself to do it in a way that feels like a stretch, but doesn't feel such a stretch that it starts to become stressful or painful. That's what nurturing is. So you're allowing yourself to do things that you want to do, but you're allowing yourself to do it in your own time, in your own way. And that way it becomes very nurturing. And that means your alone time, you really are building your relationship with yourself, because you're also getting to learn about how you go about doing things your way. And having such a strong relationship with yourself, you won't feel lonely when you're alone. So, nurture yourself. And then number 9 is, take time to do your own chores, but also find your own joy. So, when you're alone, there are some of the things that you still have to do. No one's coming around, so no one's going to know if you haven't had a shower for 3 weeks or however long it is. But you're not probably going to feel terribly brilliant if you don't. So there are chores that you need to do. You still need to do the dishes. You still need to make sure that your home space is hygienic. You still need to make sure that you're eating decently, getting some exercise. Doing these things but doing it in a way that you're sort of combining your chores with play. So you're allowing yourself to find a way to do these things that you're actually enjoying. So, with exercise, you might decide that you don't like going to the gym, but you really like going for bushwalking, or you might decide that you don't like doing weights, but you really do like moving rocks around the garden to, do some landscaping. It's about finding a way that you can do what you need to do, but in a way that is really joyous, because that, the more joy you have, the less lonely you will feel. And then the 10th way is I've already mentioned this, which is, of course, exercise, because that will give you more endorphins. So when you are by yourself, it is important to exercise, but to exercise in a way that helps you get that sort of natural high of endorphins. So it's really more about the endorphins. So if going for a run gets those endorphins going, do that. But if for you, meditating is what gets your endorphins going, do that. But just allow yourself to figure out what it is that gets your endorphins going. Do that for yourself, and then you'll be feeling so good. You won't be feeling lonely. So that's 10 ways. Now, you might have noticed that I didn't mention in there to purge the things that do tend to make you feel lonely, because hopefully you don't have any of those around. But if you do, yes, you can definitely make it easier for yourself by getting rid of those things. So there you are. There's 10 ways that you can be alone without feeling lonely. So do that so that you can spend some alone time, work on your intuition, and that way you can remember that you're brilliant.